We got a little bit of positive jobs data today. And by positive, I mean the numbers are going lower because that's the kind of market that we're in. We also have another Asian country that is ditching the US dollar, continuing to see the devaluation of USD. We'll talk about that and more as we get going on today's show. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel. Nothing we say is financial advice. We're a couple of guys who love following the markets, nerd out on the macro, on the charts, all this good stuff. So please do all of your own research when it comes to any buying and selling decisions. Kevin, we had the JOLTS report this morning. Job openings have fallen to a 21-month low. I know that there are going to be some jobs around you because probably hail damage is happening right outside your house right now. But other than that, monthly low or 21-month low, 9.9 million jobs available, under 10 million for the first time in a while. So that is a positive step. We did see that number reflected in the CME group projection for the next Fed rate hike. Yesterday and before the report came out today, it was like a 2-to-1 odds of a 25 basis point hike. If you look at it now, it's about 50-50. So we're seeing every data point come in. It's actually about 56-44 in favor of no hike. So every positive report coming in is shifting the probabilities toward no rate hike. If we get hey, we'll see what happens on Friday. We're going to get some more job data. We're going to get the big daddy unemployment number. If that number comes in above expectation, I think we'll continue to see that there's going to be a better probability of no rate hike. I'm not sure if that's the right decision. I hope the Fed knows what they're doing, but that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, it's great to see finally the labor market is finally going in the right direction from what we had been anticipating for the longest. Obviously, we need the market. The market was extremely tight. We're starting to see some of that loosening up with less jobs that are open for people, and that's going to be really good for inflation. Hopefully, that is also reflected when we get some of the unemployment data coming this week. Again, unemployment needs to go up if we want inflation to come down. It's just we need to have people not making money and not spending money that ultimately will bring the value of the dollar up against just you won't be devaluing the US dollar, the currency. So it's really good to see that. As for 25 or 0, I would agree with you, but my main thing when it comes to that is just watching the price of oil. That I think is going to be one thing that is going to be playing a huge factor into the next rate hike. Again, we have a month where there's no meeting, right? April is completely quiet. We're not going to see another meeting till May, and speaking like right around the beginning of May. So once we do find that stuff out, a lot of stuff can happen in the next, what's today, April 4th. We got 26 more days of chaos that can ensue. So it'll be really interesting to see. But yeah, I'll be really excited.
I'm curious. But my thing there is I'm curious. Hey, Mark, how we doing, buddy? Welcome to the show. My curiosity comes from, okay, we're going to get CPI, PPI, and PCE data ahead of the next Fed meeting. But is the increase in the price of oil right now going to, how much is that going to impact those numbers? And if the Fed is looking at those numbers, that might impact for the June meeting. But if they pause at this one and then we see inflation spike back up because of energy costs, for like the April numbers, that reports that come out in May, and then we got the June meeting. Like, I think it's a giant clusterfuck. I'm not sure if the Fed will like preemptively take the price of oil into account when it comes to the upcoming rate hike decision. If we continue, we got about a month to go until the next one. If we continue to see the price of oil move up, let's say, God forbid, it gets to like 85 or even something crazy like 90 right now. Could they preemptively know that, like, hey, we're going to see inflation go back up, so we're going to act on this now instead of waiting for the confirmation of it? I'm not really sure. I haven't seen that situation play out before, but it's definitely something that the Fed has to consider, I think.
Definitely. And I think a lot of those 75 basis point hikes are playing into what we're seeing now. And obviously, we're seeing the lagging effects of it. It's been over a year since they started. And if they do want to make sure that they are 100% getting over on inflation, bringing it down, maybe they think ahead. Maybe they're proactive instead of reactive. It's been pretty reactive, if anything, maybe even delayed reaction at some points. But it'll be really interesting to see how Powell and other Fed board members take this. Again, I think the smart thing is always to do too much rather than do too little and just blow this out of proportion.
Yeah, and we'll continue to hear from some of the Fed chairs We hear from President Bullard on Thursday of the St. Louis Fed. So may get a little bit more insight into what they're thinking there. And then, like I said, on Friday, we have the big unemployment rate. So a lot going on there. As I mentioned at the top as well, we saw Malaysia is. I can't talk about Malaysia without thinking about Zoolander, like the Malaysian prime minister. So I'm just envisioning like Mugatu walking with him and talking about, no longer using the US dollar, but that's neither here nor there. But we see another Asian country get away from the dollar, discussing an Asian kind of alliance with China around, using the yuan and how they want to handle things and getting away from the US. Is that going to, at what point, and I'm not sure if you have the answer to this, is that going to play into our analysis of the DXY and how that in turn impacts risk assets?
Yeah, I think, again, Malaysia is part of those emerging markets where there's tons of value, there's tons of money in there. So I'm not surprised by them ditching the US dollar to go with the Chinese dollar again. We're also in the continent of Asia, so it just seems like it'd make a lot more sense for them to be joining forces with China and at least that economic deal. But I think we're already seeing some of the effects on the DXY, not necessarily from this deal that happened today, but over the past few weeks, we've seen a lot of smaller currencies start to build their dominance in the world. A lot of people are just starting to step away from the dollar. And I think that's why the dollar has been just dropping nonstop. Been talking about how the dollar has been, pretty much moving on news. It hasn't been really technical. If we're looking at technical on the macro time, there's definitely a pump to the upside. Again, maybe this is limiting how much this has to grow on the DXY. I was targeting 114, maybe even 120. Maybe we go a little bit lower than that, but we still should see a pump to the point where risk assets are hurt. It's not ideal, but yeah, that's definitely what I'm seeing. I wouldn't be able to tell you the exact answer, I think, to that question, but I think we're already seeing some of the effects of the DXY on the DXY from a lot of these Forex changes with people doing business in different currencies.
Yeah, I think it's going to continue to be problematic for the dollar. And we've discussed on the show before, around politics, just how far behind the US is falling with the rest of the world when it comes to crypto, when it comes to adopting new technology and new ways of transacting. It's just a bad look. It shows how much of a problem we really have over in this country. And I don't have a lot of faith in the powers that be right now to help us catch up. So maybe we need to, what was it? Andrew Yang started like his own political party that's more like the Forward Party or something like that. Like, hey, maybe that's part of the answer.
I don't even know if that'll save us. I think like the United States is one of the only countries that taxes you no matter where you live. You can exit the tax system in other countries, but the U.S. will always follow you wherever you go. So unless you're not a citizen, pay up, bitch. That's pretty much the motto. But as long as we have that mindset of just hurting wealth. Again, I think there's an anti-wealth like narrative in the United States, and it gets a lot of people really upset. Elizabeth Warren definitely plays in on this, and it's not the right mindset to have because, again, I think everyone just needs financial literacy. There's no need to just be angry at everyone who is able to accumulate wealth and does it properly. I think once that mindset is kind of shifted, I think we see that in other countries where people kind of mind their own business, and then your money is your money. I think that's.
I mean, if we're talking politicians who do it the right way, we can't skip over Nancy Pelosi. I mean, she is just by the book, does everything the right way, has never been involved in any sort of insider trading. We're outsider trading over here.
That's true.
And so is she. She's never done anything. She's never front ran any sort of huge news. So, God bless Nancy Pelosi. That was a whole lot of sarcasm if you're watching this. So let's talk a little bit about the Dogecoin pump yesterday and some of the liquidations that came with that. You were kind of breaking those down for me earlier, but we saw Elon Musk in a surprise move. We briefly discussed on yesterday's show, switch the Twitter logo. If you're on desktop, you can see it. You're on the homepage of Twitter. Up in the left, we got that Doge logo. It led to a lot of liquidations, especially for a coin with that, that low of a price, but there's a lot of money in Dogecoin. It's like number 7 or 8 as far as market cap goes, which is insane to me. But what were some of the liquidations that we were seeing?
Yeah, 7th in market cap flipped my boy Cardano yesterday. So definitely going to be leading into the bull market. But yeah, liquidations, I'm going to actually pull up on CoinGlass because it's pretty interesting info. Yeah, here we are on CoinGlass. We can see for the past 24 hours, these are the liquidations. Obviously, we have 147 million across the entire crypto space. Bitcoin at 57, Ethereum at 30, and not too far behind at 22. It was actually 23, I guess, past 24 hours, maybe an hour has passed since the logo popped up, but it was 23 million. We lost 13 million for people who were trading futures on shorts, 13 million for them, and 10 million for those who were doing longs. So people got liquidated in both directions. If you're spot trading and you're able to get out at maybe that 10, 11 cent range, you're probably a lot safer. But if people were using leverage, that was a quick wick both ways, just absolutely destroy everyone. So we're still in liquidation season. We've been saying this since back in December, that we were anticipating that going into January. January kicked our ass. If you're a bear, it definitely kicked your ass, all the way till currently. But yeah, we're still seeing, just grabbing as much liquidity as they can out of any project. And personally, with these meme coins, let's be honest, there's not a ton of utility that you could use for these for. So the fact that we're in a bear market and people are still betting on meme coins is pretty doesn't seem like the safest bet. And personally, for me, this is not the time where I would be entering positions with any of these meme coins. I think I'm gonna let the world just pretty much catch fire, let scorched earth happen, and then maybe I'll throw some fun money around. But right now, at 10 cents for Dogecoin, and I still think there's tons of room to the downside for pretty much every asset that it's ever existed. This just seems like an absolute liquidity grab to the point where, yep, we're going to follow these people a few more times before, we're going to drop everything on them.
As Alfred said in The Dark Knight, some men just want to watch the world burn, and you're one of those men, Kevin. That's a pretty wild day in the world of Doge. What else do we want to look at right now? We're seeing the TradFi markets, everything down between 0.6 and 0.77%. A lot of red across the board there. Not too surprising. We've just seen this kind of back and forth where we had a green day, then a red day, then a green day, then a red day. We've also gotten more word, and we have lost Kevin. I think his internet went down because he was getting pelted with hail. So now it's just me right here. And I don't really do charts, so I'm just going to kind of talk and see what happens and see if we can get Kevin back. And Kevin's coming back as we speak.
Sorry.
Nope. Hold on. There he is.
Sorry.
How we doing?
Hail hit, and then I accidentally closed the wrong tab, and I was like, all right, all good.
I've done that. I thought the hail might have shot through the window and gotten you.
No, I would make sure we had that on camera.
Okay. So I was just saying, we're getting more reports of jobs being cut, whether it's sales jobs for Apple or executive jobs for McDonald's. The McDonald's thing is crazy. Their execs are at home, just twiddling their thumbs, waiting to hear whether or not they're losing their job. That's nuts to me that they're doing it, taking that approach, and they're going to inform them via email or maybe a group Zoom call that they're getting fired. That's nuts.
Yeah, it's nuts, but again, it's something that had been anticipating. I'm not surprised by all these positions from, it's a top down, and it's finally getting through more than just the tech industry. It's insane how they're doing it, but I don't think that's going to be the only company that's going to be doing things similarly to a point where it's okay, can we afford to cut this many people? Should we? Some people might just be kind of like DCAing people out of payroll. We're going to cut this many people here. Let's see how the market reacts. Let's keep cutting. It might just play out like that for the next, hate to say this, but next 2-3 years. I mean, it could easily happen that way, especially if I think we're in a recession. I think all these job cuts that are finally happening outside of the tech industry are proving that. And, it's going to be a lot of unemployed people. We see job openings already going down, which means that people aren't hiring now, which before wasn't the case. People were hiring, they couldn't find people to work. Now it's okay, start closing some of these positions. We can get lean, and it's just absolutely insane. I think a lot of people who are going to be getting hurt are obviously people who are working from home or from a computer, not necessarily need to be at work. It's easy to cut people like that. And it's going to be easy to cut people who are the last ones to be hired. So if you just got a job, I'm not going to tell you, you're going to lose it, but just understand that no one is safe right now.
At least if you just got a job, at least you recently updated your resume so you can get ready to send that out again soon. And if the worst happens, I hope it doesn't. But Yeah, it's just been very, it's kind of sad to see the way that they're doing it. And I think it's just it's a pretty cold way to fire people, if I'm being honest there. But that's the world we live in. That's the game that we're playing. That is the business that they are doing. Do we have any charts we want to look at today? Do we want to dive deeper into Doge? I see that Bitcoin dominance has taken a little bit of a dip.
Yeah.
Ethereum had a nice run up overnight, early morning today. So, tell me what direction you want to take it with the charts, and we will head there.
Yeah, so let's just jump into, we're going to do the similar stuff. I just want to look at the DXY just because I haven't lost confidence in the dollar. And just for the short term, it's probably taking a little bit of leg down.
Kevin, it's over.
It might be over one day, but it's not over today. I think we still have plenty of manipulation that'll keep us afloat. But when I look at the dollar,
thank God you could bet on that.
This is USA. Point is, here's where we came down to back in February. Dollar took a massive dump and then it shot straight up to 102. So it went from 100.8 to 102.9, and that we got extremely overbought very fast on the daily. But when I see this, I'm not being hopeful here, but I'm seeing this go up higher. Hopefully we find some, next few days we start climbing around here, we get above this level, and then we would have a nice oversold stochastic RSI. There'd be a good bullish divergence potentially on the daily. If we go to the weekly, I do want to point this out. We are above the 200 still, so we're still technically in a bull market for the dollar. The dollar needs to come down just a little bit more on the weekly. We need to be oversold, undervalued, and it could trade sideways for a while and still stay undervalued. This could play out over the next, I don't know, 3-4 weeks or so, to the point where we get to a bottom, then we start to make our move to the upside. What I'm seeing on the weekly and on the daily is this W pattern. This is coming down here, coming up, coming down, and if we could hold the support and just start coming up again, that's also a pretty bullish pattern formation. It just means that you found the double bottom, you were strong enough to hold above it, and then it's just going to be continuation of the pattern. So obviously the trend was, for the most part, in this bull market to the upside all the way up till September 2022, came down, and now this is where the reversal comes in around right at that key level of support that we've seen through history of the DXY. Well, I got too many tabs open, I don't even know what I'm doing. There we go. History of the DXY, bounce off here, and then make our way up to the upside. Again, a lot of stuff happening with the dollar, tons of news coming out. I was extremely bullish on the dollar, and I even had like this 122 range coming up. I was like, you know what, if this inflation gets to shit, that's where we're going to go to. Obviously things change. I want to keep be reasonable, but I would like to see us at least come up above the 105, maybe test this 114. This thing is kind of interesting out here. This gap, this massive gap we got to the downside. That was in 1 week. We shot from 110 to 106. So maybe 110 is even a good level right there. I wouldn't be too surprised if we fill that. We put in a lower high, and that could be us entering the bull market and exiting the bear market if we're putting a lower high, and eventually the dollar starts to lose its power because risk assets are finally in a place where we can push to the upside. So that could play out over the course of weeks to months, even to the end of next year, or end of this year into next year. It's just going to be a long-term game, but I'm not giving up on the dollar. I still see this pattern on the macro, and that's why I look at the macro always. We just need to see this formation, follow through. So if we start seeing a push to the upside, confirmation of this would be a break above 105.48. If we break above that, then I am pretty much 100% positive that we're going to be going to the upside and testing maybe 110, 114.
So real quick, I'm going to have you, and we'll look at this in a second, Mark. But first, I want to show, I've done a little bit of my own technical analysis on the dollar, and I'd like to show that to you right now. How does that look? How does that pattern, we got here, and then we got, another W here, and then we're just going to go straight up. Does that look like a good pattern? That seems reasonable.
I mean, that's pretty much what I think.
Yeah, the old cock and balls pattern. We're going to roll with that.
I'm cool with the cock and balls pattern, but the good thing is this is a good cock and balls pattern because this one goes
up
to
and to the right, baby.
You don't. Well, some go to the left, but the good thing is this one's going to the right. That's the right direction, and I'm very happy to see that. I couldn't tell what that was at first. I was like, okay, yeah, you've seen the double, but then those two circles, I was like, oh yeah, those are the balls. I saw the cock, but not the balls. But
there you go.
balls of
Sorry,
steel.
this is what goes through my head when I'm doing these things.
No, it's the
And
best way to
there's
do
a
it.
reason that we're the best in the business. Do
That's
you have
right.
anything else on the dollar? Mark had a question. I would love to get your thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, I'll pull up ETH right now. Let's see, ETH. Yeah, ETH's been it's kind of wild with ETH. Let's see, the volumes are coming down on the weekly. We're overbought. Obviously, I expect some type of push to the downside. The 50 and the 200 are getting extremely close. We're at 1866 right now. Let me look at the daily. There we go. So it looks like we're still in this freaking megaphone pattern. We came to the upper level of this at 1891 yesterday. We wicked off of it, came down. Currently at 1866. Volumes are coming down, but we saw a little bit of pump there. I think a lot of this pump right here has to do with it's probably got to do something with Bitcoin dominance and Ethereum dominance. I haven't seen Ethereum dominance, but I want to take a look at that as well. So let me just pull that up. ETH.D. Yep, that's exactly 100% what happened. So didn't even need to guess, but we see that it shot up from here, broke above the 200, it was below the 200. So ETH showing some dominance right now against Bitcoin, probably other alts. About 20% of the, or 19.5% of the total market cap is ETH in crypto. So definitely why we saw that pump. I don't know if it's going to be long lasting. I think the Bitcoin dominance needs to correct just a little bit. It's pretty oversold on all, overbought on most time frames. Probably gonna correct on the daily. Might see a little bit push to the upside. I'm not giving up on Bitcoin dominance either, because again, I think that's gonna ultimately be the one that brings down the market. But as Ethereum dominance goes up too, definitely that could be strong against other alts too. Because let's be honest, it's between Bitcoin and Ethereum when we talk about cryptocurrency. Those are probably the two that people are feel the most safe investing in. So definitely going to have the highest market caps between the two. And, if these two are going up, Bitcoin dominance is pretty high, Ethereum dominance is pretty high, and they both take a leg down. Everything else below it is going to bleed just as much. So nothing too crazy here. I think there's just a lot of overbought.
Real quick. So if you combine those numbers, you have Bitcoin and Ethereum takes up almost exactly 2/3 of the crypto market.
Exactly.
Is there a combined chart where we can see the two of those together and like historically, because you hear that there's like this historical precedent of like Bitcoin runs and then ETH runs and then everything else runs. So is there any sort of like joint chart we can see of, ETH and Bitcoin's combined dominance and historic data of like when, what we can look for to tell us like, okay, we're getting ready to see alts run as well?
Let me see. I have no idea. I've never actually looked for that chart. Let's see BTC. Yeah,
so Ace says to use the Alt 3 chart.
Alt 3? Maybe I'm tweaking. Alt 3.
If not, it's no big deal. We can look this up and touch back on it tomorrow. I just thought it'd be something to kind of look at if we're just trying to figure out, okay, what kind of patterns are we going to look at to see when alts could potentially go on a run?
Oh, gotcha, Ace. Yeah, we're looking for BTC and ETH together, right, JWeb?
Yeah, or like Ace is saying, the Alt 3 just takes out BTC and ETH, and historically, when has that shown us that we're getting ready to run again? But it's all good. We can save it for another time. I know you wanted to talk about Bitcoin as well. We touched on ETH. Do you have any other thoughts there?
No, again, I think a lot of things with ETH, when we look at it, everything is extremely overbought. I'm not even on ETH right now. Like on the stochastic RSI, something's got to give. We're extremely overbought. We're in this megaphone pattern, and we're still in it. That's the thing. Megaphone patterns are extremely volatile. They only happen at the top or the bottom of a market. It's not always the case, but for the most part, that's when I tend to see them. That's the top of a move or the bottom of one. Been going up for a while, so I'm going to assume that this is the top. It's a local top. But yeah, I think that we're going to see a breakdown of a lot of these. If the dominance continues to build across the entire market cap, alts aren't necessarily pushing up as much, then I think that when these two do decide to move to the downside, probably going to see everything bleed. But yeah, just be patient with this one. I think this one's running out of steam pretty soon. All right, let's
Yeah,
see.
I keep hearing from people smarter than myself that maybe we have another month or two of this rally going before things start to come back down. And I'm
Hold on,
just
man.
wondering if that combined with the devaluation of the dollar is causing people to be like, I don't want to keep my cash in USD. I'd rather keep in Ethereum long term. And if we can see that price kind of buoyed up by that, maybe we move closer to the 2K level. It looked like there was still more room to the upside on the stochastic when you're looking at the daily. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't be shocked if we move toward, if we eventually break through 1900 and lose steam when we get closer to 2000.
Yeah, that'd also be a great time for everyone who's holding ether, has positions to just dump on the market too. Like again, 2000 is way better to capitulate from for people who are, betting against the market going up, shorters, than obviously dropping there from 14. That's what, $600 difference per coin. So definitely think that this is just going to get to a boiling point. There's going to be a bubble, and when it does burst, it's just going to be super profitable for people who are entering these positions at the right time. But I got
Yeah, and one thing to keep in mind as well, sorry, is that in about a week, 8 days, we have the unlock is supposed to
oh
take
yeah,
place
true.
for staking. So keep that in mind. On the 12th, the Shanghai upgrade should take place, and a lot of Ethereum is going to be unlocked. A lot of ETH is going to be unlocked on that chain. Do we see a sell off? Is that already priced in? Are people waiting to price that in? My the optimists in the NFT space were like, oh yeah, it's just going to lead to people spending that money on high value NFTs. I don't think that's the case at all, but it is going to be interesting to see how that impacts the market next Wednesday.
Yeah, Ace just pulled up your total threes, the total market cap of the obviously the alts minus Bitcoin and Ethereum. Cool. So I'm looking at this on the weekly. That looks terrible. Again, I see this is the weekly I just pulled up, and that 50 and that 200 are so close, and this sideways right here. I mean, technically you could say I hate pulling up parallel channels because parallel channels been kicking my ass lately with how much liquidations there been, but that's a bear flag right there. Pull going up, and then the price continues making higher highs, higher lows. We'll see how this one plays out. The volumes are dropping off significantly right here. This is for total market cap, so this is all alts, obviously. And this 250 are super close here. I wouldn't be surprised if, when this does begin to happen, we do see a little bit of a tank in alts. That just goes with, and we get our death cross. Obviously, the Bitcoin and Ethereum are going to be holding up the entire market cap of all of crypto. But even them, they're going to take a hit. But this is when I see this getting extremely close, that just tells me, that we're getting close to a point where we're going to see some negative price action. However, on the daily, we do see the 50 coming up above the 200. It's probably going to come up soon. Is that going to be a little bit of fake out as the 200 and the 50 cross on the weekly? Maybe we see a little bit of a pump. I'm okay with the pump, like at this point, because we know the macro, we know where it's going. Things are finally starting to take place where unemployment's rising, or not yet, but job openings are being limited. We're seeing oil shoot up. The rates that have been hiked in the past are finally starting to take its effect on the economy. So if we want to see this bubble burst, let it ride at this point. I mean, that's my philosophy. I'm willing to short from a higher position, but definitely. So on the daily, it looks a little bit more bullish than on the weekly. But again, this thing could turn very fast. It's when you least expect it. I continue to believe that, and that's why it's a bubble.
Okay.
And
Anything else we wanted to touch on before we wrap it for the day?
I don't have anything too much with Bitcoin. Bitcoin obviously is pulling back, but it's still strong above 28K. I still anticipate that to go up. I do want to take a look at BNB real quick because this is one that a lot of people are saying there's tons of FUD around Binance and everything like that. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I really don't know. I don't have any false idols right now, and even though I like using Binance's trading platform, at the end of the day, it's a game. If they go down, they go down. If they go up, I'll ride the way up. But Binance, I'm just looking at this. This is trading in a parallel channel. This one's 100% a parallel channel. We're just seeing it. It's not necessarily bull or bear flight, but these tend to break to the downside. And the one thing is that might be a good reason why this is a potentially good short. I'm not saying from this level, but pretty soon, is because Paxos is not issuing BUSD anymore to Binance. And the big FUD was Binance using BUSD to prop up the price of BNB, to prop up the price of Bitcoin so that they can keep people in liquidity on the exchange. Maybe that's potential, but I want to pull up this thing as well. When we look here, let's see, I'm going to stop sharing this screen and I'm going to go to this wall account that I was looking at. And this is Binance's top accounts by BNB balance. And you got this? Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
When I look at this, obviously this is a lot of numbers. That's 152 million BNB right there. 600 million.
6.4 million.
Yeah, 3.5 million here, 1.9 million. These are all BSC Token Hub, Binance Hot Wallet, Binance. And we look at the percentage of each one that's holding. It's 26% in this wallet of all of BNB, 14% in this wallet of all BNB, 7% in this wallet all BNB, 5% here. These all add up, and it's a lot. It's a huge percentage that's owned by Binance. And again, that's what happens with decentralized exchanges. But is that because they prop the price up? I don't know. I'm looking at this, on the Binance on the weekly. When I look at the stochastic RSI, it looks like it's coming down. It's still trading in that, that channel. But what's to say that Binance just doesn't just dump this quietly over the next few months? I mean, 70%, they need liquidity. If something happens to the point where, they were overexposed to some company or anything like that, that could be a potentially, catastrophic, sell-off. But I do want to also go back to the BNB chart because, let's see, stop screen, present. Because the BNB chart, we were talking about some of those fair value gaps and some of these gaps on the monthly and the weekly and stuff like that. But let's go to the monthly. These were levels that we were talking about. So we came up, I think it's the weekly, my bad. I'm sorry. Here we go. We see these massive gaps, right? We were trading somewhere in, I think it was December, and we came down to 256 and we shot below it and we were getting close. We even came close down here, and that was in June, but this was December when everything was dumping. We came down to 220. I said that if we got to 207, that would be support. We stopped just above it, and we haven't even came close to testing this again. We tested 258, we broke above it, and we got all the way to 339 right here, and they got rejected off of it. Do I think it can go up a little bit higher? Maybe, but I think that since the SEC cracked down on Paxos and a lot of the BUSD, they can't really prop the price up if that is the case and what was happening. I don't necessarily see any value in BUSD if people aren't trading using Binance, because obviously you get cheaper fees and you could use it on the exchange. But I think that this one could be a massive bubble, again, along with a lot of other alts where, it looks bullish, but it's not. And, if we look at, I think it was the monthly this time, and you see lots of wicks. But yeah, here it is. This was from the bull market in 2021, from February. We shot up from $46 all the way up to $206 within 1 month. That's a pretty insane pump. But look at, there's no support there. There's no support on the monthly in that area. So if you get below that 183, you're going down to maybe 139. That's me being nicely, because there's a little bit of weekly support, like 2 weeks in that period of that month where, it traded sideways before it pumped again. But maybe $45 is where BNB goes to. So that's something like, if you're at 310 right now and it goes to 45, it's pretty nice. It's a pretty nice short position.
So are you going to open that short position, or are you
going to
wait a little bit longer?
I'm going to be patient. Okay. Because we look at the charts, I definitely feel like I will be opening some short positions coming soon, just because, look, I'm at the point where I think that we're at a good level where they're giving you a perfect opportunity to get out of the market. And I don't see any of the macro conditions getting better. And honestly, as things start to finally take effect, that's when you start to see the capitulation again. We talk about how when the Fed pauses, that's when it's when the Fed pauses, right? When we start to see
pivots. It's been historically, it's when they pivot, they start lowering rates. That's when the market takes a shit.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's still possible, maybe for traditional financial markets. Maybe for crypto, it's a little bit different. I don't know. We saw crypto bottom out before the financial market last year. But I definitely think that there is definitely nothing stopping this from going down further. I think there's a lot of resistance to the upside because people are just super skeptical. And I think a lot of people, especially after the banking crisis, think that, you know, maybe we're out of the woods for the short term. But, you know, JP Morgan coming out this morning and saying that this is going to play out for years, the effects of what's happened in the banking crisis. Yeah, that doesn't tell me that the future outlook looks any good. And that's me also talking shit about JP Morgan after yesterday, saying that that guy didn't know what he was talking about with oil and disinflation. So some different opinions within that company, but I look at Binance. I think there might be a little bit more room to the upside. Maybe check that top of that parallel channel, but I think that this thing is going to tank at some point when liquidity starts to finally disappear from all markets, especially crypto.
All right. I think that is a good place to leave it for the day. Some great conversation here, some great conversation in the chat. Ace, Mark, appreciate you guys being here, chopping it up. You know, awesome all around. So we'll be back tomorrow. Like I said, everyone who watches this show, we really appreciate it. Kevin and I love doing this, and it's fun to have you along for the ride. So once again, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, drop a comment. If you enjoy our content, please share it. It means a lot to us. It helps us tremendously. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Nothing too interesting on the report side tomorrow. Some more job data, but nothing big until Friday. So a lot to look forward to this week. Fun time to be in the market. Just take a breather. We're playing the long game here. Let's just learn and dominate the next bull market. Let's go, baby. That's going to wrap it for today. Kevin, have an awesome rest of your day. Everybody, will see you back here tomorrow. Same time, same place. Love you guys.
Take care, everyone.